This is episode 62 of Alternative Fact Chicago. This is B.Hun. I'm finally back in Chicago. I've been in Detroit, Mount Pleasant, with the Central Michigan's homecoming fire up chips. It was an amazing time, but it always feels good to come back home to Chicago. Even though the weather does suck, it's starting to get a little bit cold, but I'm back here recording with my homie Cait. How you doing, Cait?
Hey, good. How are you? Yeah, I didn't think you were coming back.
I know, you were like, are you ever coming back? Are you something you need to tell me? Are you staying in Detroit or what?
I thought you just ditched me. You were done. We were just going to record this on our phones for the rest of our lives.
You can't have Alternative Facts Chicago if B.Hun's not in Chicago. I can't. Or we could do Alternative Facts Detroit, which may happen one day, but it wouldn't be me as the host. Bigger plans in the future. But I'm glad to be back. I love being in the city. It's nothing like being home in Chicago. This city is amazing. We actually have an important, big episode, so I'm glad you all are listening. A little bit of a switch up from the norm. We are going to talk our crap, talk our you-know-what about the city, about everything going on in the media, too. But a very important time as we're coming up with the midterm elections coming up here in 2018. It's a very, very important time, and everyone has to vote. If you're listening to this and aren't registered to vote or not going to vote, please don't be a listener of the show because we don't want you as a listener any longer. You just got to vote. It's a very important time.
I agree. We got our friend Johndalyn Armstrong from the Women's March to the Polls coming on in just a little bit to tell us more about that. But if they want to find us, where can they?
So my social media, my Instagram and Twitter is B.Hun1984. That's B.H.U.N. 1984. Where can they find you?
Instagram's Cait, C-A-I-T, no Jenner. And then on Twitter, Cait, C-A-I-T, Hassett, H-A-S-S-E-T-T.
No one's going to remember that, but...
Cool. Follow Alternative Facts Chicago on Facebook and Instagram, and I'm tagged in pretty much every post.
Absolutely. And then you can find us on Twitter as well as AFAC Chicago. Please subscribe to us on iTunes and leave a review. I think we're at 200 reviews now, finally, or close to it. So please subscribe on iTunes. You can find us on Spotify, which is a huge platform that's growing for podcasts at Alternative Fact Chicago. We're on YouTube, Google Play as well. You could email us at alternativefactchicago@gmail.com. Am I forgetting anywhere that you can find us?
I don't think so.
I think that's good to go. So you can find us everywhere. We're always growing. We appreciate you. And thank you for helping make us the #1 podcast in Chicago, making big moves. And I think the thing that we do well, and I always say to other podcasts, don't want to throw any shade out there to those on social media, Twitter. You got to get out, do things for your city. If you're not doing things for your city and making a change or actually being an impact in that city with your podcast and using your platform for good, you are absolutely wasting your time. You should not have a podcast. Use it for a good reason. Use it for where you can help make change and actually bring some ideas to light, culture to light, and things that be more informative as opposed to just talking about rumors and gossip, because you can hear that anywhere. So make change in your city. I think that's why we do well. Humble brag, but I love Alternative Facts Chicago. We do things right, and we have a great episode in store today.
Yeah, as always. We also have a really big announcement.
Whoop, whoop.
We have
The only reason I did that is because Cait always sends like texts like the whoop whoop, and I'm like, don't, like, stop sending me that. Just stop. And that's the only I did it to make fun of you. Only because you do. I always say word up. It's such a throwback. Absolutely. Let's do it.
Big stuff going on. As B.Hun said, we're out in the city doing things. We've teamed up with our friends at Bacchus Entertainment to bring you the newest, awesomest bar crawl, the fall party of the year. So it's called Flapjacks and Flannels. Flapjacks and Flannels going on November 18th. Get your lumberjack attire. Come enjoy Grandma's favorite flapjacks. Chase them down with your awesome drink specials at some of your favorite bars in Wrigleyville. It's going to start with brunch featuring a breakfast bar. Going to be super fun. And then, of course, you can come out and enjoy amazing drink specials at some of your favorite bars up there. We both are living in the Wrigleyville area, and there's just tons of dudes, tons of bar crawls, and it's just going to be super awesome time. Do you have anything to add to that?
Absolutely. So shouts out to my homie Justin and Devin, who are co-partners in putting this together. And just with this event, not just an announcement that we're going to be part of helping and promote this event, we're actually going to be partnering and working with Bacchus Entertainment going forward. So this is a partnership that's not just a one-time thing. They have a brand new company, so please get out and support. If they're cool with me, they are cool with you as well too. So it's a big honor. We appreciate them reaching out and wanting to work with Alternative Facts Chicago and helping build both of our brands together. And with that being said, Justin and Devin will be on Alternative Facts Chicago next week to talk about their business, what they're doing to help promote their very first bar crawl. So if you've heard of T-Box, if you lived in Chicago, you're not living under a rock, you absolutely know what T-Box is. T-Box is. It's a smaller scale version of that. So they're going to do smaller bars, smaller venues in terms of making it more exclusive to how you can participate. So I think Moe's are going to be doing, John Barleycorn's what they're going to be doing as well too. And I think one of the bars that I don't know off the top of my head. So different drink packages, different specials in terms of like tickets, like GA to a VIP to like premium packages. So they'll be on the episode next week to talk more about that. We'll be promoting this and posting this on our Facebook and social media in the next couple of days to give you guys ticket links and where you can go and purchase tickets. So shouts out Justin, shouts out Devin, Bacchus Entertainment. We'll be doing a lot of work with them, but that first bar crawl will need everyone to come out, show support, because they have the next bar crawl company that's going to do a lot of big things, not only in Chicago, but they're going to be branching out all across the country in the next year or two. So be on the lookout for that.
Yep, just like B.Hun said, early bird tickets on sale now, $15. So for a bar crawl, that's really awesome. And it includes the early bird lottery, prizes, giveaways. We'll be posting the link, but you can also just search for Flapjacks and Flannels on Facebook or on Eventbrite, and you'll be right there.
Absolutely. And then switching gears briefly, brief reminder, of course, on December the 2nd, Alternative Facts Chicago will be returning to the Chicago Podcast Festival for the second year running. We got picked once again. So shouts out to the Chicago Podcast Festival for inviting us once again. Kelly, really appreciate the offer. So we're actually going to be sharing the stage with NBA champion, former NBA All-Star Antoine Walker. He has a Southside Heat podcast. So that's a Sunday, December 2nd in the evening. It's going to be at Chicago Theater Works. We will be starting to post the ticket links very soon, but we need all of our listeners and fans of the show. And if you just like podcasts in general, listening to a live show in the flesh, you can drink. It's very interactive. It's a great time. So make sure you come out and support us.
Yes, you can drink.
Yes. Who doesn't like drinking?
You can listen to us at home. Why not drink and listen to us live?
Absolutely. So make sure you come out and support. Ticket links will be up soon, but we got a lot going on. Even more announcements to come. We'll save those for a later date. But what do you think? Your first live podcast coming up. You think you can handle it?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Absolutely. I'm pretty confident that you can as well too. So awesome. Switching gears here briefly before we get to this conversation for the Women's March in Chicago. So our fan of the week this week for Alternative Facts Chicago, and I actually got a chance to see this person this past weekend at Central Michigan at homecoming. His name is Corey Burton. He's been a long-time listener of the show since it started in February of 2017. He always randomly comments on Twitter or on Facebook. So, Corey, you are our fan of the week. Thank you for always listening. I know you're going to catch this. I didn't even let you know when I saw you this past weekend that you would be a fan of the week, but I know you always listen and support. So I want to say, and Kate wants to say, we really appreciate you and always listening to our show. Every spin counts. Every listener counts. So we really do. Thank you for that. You can find him on Twitter at CKB84. That's CKB84. So once again, Corey, we appreciate you and thank you for being our fan of the week.
Thanks, Corey. We love you.
Absolutely. So we're going to take a little shift here. A very important conversation, as we mentioned, in terms of voting in 2018, women's voting in 2018. So who are we going to have on the show on Alternative Facts Chicago?
So you heard us talking about the Women's March to the Polls going on this weekend, October 12th, and it's an offset of the Women's March, and we have our good friend Johndalyn Armstrong joining. She's a co-organizer of the march and a key player in the Women's March to the Polls, and she's got the inside scoop on what you can expect this weekend, what's going on, and how you can get involved. So welcome to the show, Johndalyn.
Enjoy.
All right, so we have Johndalyn Armstrong with us, one of the co-organizers of the Women's March to the Polls here in Chicago. How are you, Johndalyn?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good.
Welcome. Thanks for making it to Alternative Facts Chicago. When we found out we had the opportunity to speak with you today, we thought it'd be a great opportunity for one, super cool for two, And then 3, it's a big event here in Chicago this weekend. I think it's very important, especially with what's been going on the past year or two, that everyone gets out and vote. We're very proud of the effort that you guys are making. So we are glad. We want to thank you for joining Alternative Facts Chicago.
Wow, I'm very glad to be here. Very glad to have been asked. And I'm super excited to be a part of Alternative Facts because I think this is amazing. I believe
Thank you.
podcasts are going to take over the world. And you're not going to have to worry about like major television again because podcasts are going to rule. So.
Absolutely. So, first of all, just to briefly get started here, we got a lot of questions for you. We want to make sure this is a conversation, very informative. Our listeners are really in tune to the show, really in tune to what's going on in the city of Chicago. All about this Women's March coming up this weekend. But first of all, got to get a little background story. What made you want to get involved in and be a co-organizer of the Women's March of Chicago, and of course, Women's March to the Polls. Though, what made you want to get involved in this?
7 years ago. Actually, it was driven, my interest to be a part of this was driven from the elections that took place in 2016. Getting people to the polls. I remember doing everything that we could to advertise and promote the importance of voting and getting things out there. And yes, we were pushing for a particular candidate. And when I woke up at 3:32 that morning and saw the alert on my phone, that informed who actually was in the office. Devastation. It paralyzed me. And I was just like, you've got to be kidding. But what do? You move on, and you have to go ahead and you have to do the best to keep going forward. And going forward is to do all that you can to resist, do all that you can to promote the beauty and the value of democracy. So, and then of course, what you do after that, you go to Facebook. And so you start flipping and seeing what's going on and what's happening. And that, the week after that, I saw an advertisement about a potential march that was happening. But I saw the one that was going to be the national one that was happening. And so I'm like, yes, I'm going to DC. I'm going to march. But then I saw that Chicago was having their own efforts. And I said, okay, well, let me take care of home. Let me go ahead and let me stay here. Let me see what's going to happen. And from there, I showed up to the Central and Halsted for the first volunteers meeting. And I said, what can I do? I remember going to school the day after the election, and because it's a very large population of Latino and other people of color at my school where I recently graduated from, and to see people in utter devastation and tears, crying, thinking that now that he's in office, that I'm going to get deported tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And I can totally, feel with you on that because everybody knows that listens to the podcast. I'm from Georgia, and specifically South Georgia, which is, basically one of the states that elected the person that you more or less are saying you didn't want into office. And so tears. I mean, it was crazy, just like tears everywhere. So as somebody who was in Georgia and didn't necessarily live in a place where there was an outlet for a march, obviously it's very cool to see you having said, I'm going to get involved. And so thank you for your efforts because it's very cool. We love that Chicago is a place that speaks out for what they believe in. We see protests and marches and things like that all the time. So what you guys are doing is huge. So thanks. So the Women's March to the Polls, it's happening this Saturday, October 12th. We'll get some more details on that. And of course, we'll post them on Facebook. But so is this affiliated directly with the March on Washington? I know you said that's one of the things that inspired you to get involved. So are they partners? Is this just a branch of it, or how are they affiliated?
So yeah, we are affiliated with a national organization called March On, which was founded by organizers of women's marches across our country. And of course, also would include Chicago. So we are a branch of a different organization, but of course our mission pretty much is the same. We're unifying together to promote the importance of our voices being heard as women, those who identify as women, our trans sisters, people of color, everyone. We need to be heard, and so that's where our affiliation comes from.
Which is awesome. And tying into that, I know back in January of 2018, I saw, and I wasn't able to make it that day, but it was all over the press. You could be anywhere in the city of Chicago. You were hearing about the original Women's March back in January 2018. I think it said it may be up over, I saw a stat, around 300,000 people were in attendance, which is amazing. That's bigger than some cities itself. It's amazing to see. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience? And absolutely, what was that like for you?
It was very shocking, jarring, overwhelming. I remember literally standing behind stage, having my cell phone in my hand, and seeing the helicopter go over. I'm like, oh, that's cute. Look, what are you looking at? And then I'm looking, and then all of a sudden, it was one of the news outlets was posting a picture, and the picture that was coming down, I looked up and I'm like, oh, that looks familiar. And I'm like, is that me? And then all of a sudden, here comes these numbers. And I'm thinking, of course, what I'm able to see with my naked eye is just the expansion of Columbus. I didn't know that there were over 300,000 plus human beings that were in the entire area. It had gotten to the point where we were unable to physically leave that space in March. However, the people on the back end that were on Michigan, that were on the opposite end of Columbus, they said, we're going to march. And so a march took place anyway. Wow. But because of how impacted it was in the population in that area, we couldn't move. So it was sobering, because it helped me understand that people get it. Mm-hmm. And even if whoever you vote for is whoever you vote for, but the fact that you believe in democracy and the fact that you want your voice to be heard is what's very important. And people got it that day.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, no, we love hearing that. That's cool that you were just there and you could look up and see. And like, honestly, history was being made. Like we said, 300,000 people right there in that area. So now that it's the Women's March to the Polls, the Women's March is an annual event, right? It happens every single year. And so this is kind of like a branch off it with similar values and a similar objective. So since Trump is in office, and that's something we can't affect at this point, because obviously the Women's March was pushing for Hillary highly. We all know that. So why is it important that we get involved in local politics now?
The importance of local politics and voting on a local level is because a lot of people don't understand that that's where your key changes are taking place. Mm-hmm. The people who you put in office are going to be the voices for you. Even if it's down to your local school council. People don't know that someone who can live in your neighborhood who does not have children, who may not have your best interests at heart, can still run on the local school council, and they can vote against if, a child doesn't have enough money to pay for their lunch, that they're not able to get. They can put that into a law, that your child can't eat if they can't afford it. Wow. And you would think, well, that should be a parent, that should be this person. But if we don't have a parent that's working, we don't have a parent that is participating in this effort, then what do? Someone else will step into the role. The same thing that happens with your aldermen, the same things that happen with your mayors and your governors. These are still individuals that are going to represent you, but you need to understand, who is this person? And do you actually represent me? Do you really care? Do you really know? Now, you may not know me personally, but do you understand my demographic? Do you understand my culture? And now that we have a lot of gentrification that's happening a lot in Chicago, do you understand that while what this neighborhood may look like now, but we still have pockets of it that are still with Native people who need to make sure that their voices don't drift off into the wind. So it's important.
Yeah, I think people forget the impact of local politics and local elections. They see the Trumps and the government. They never realize a lot of times you can make change in their own county, their own city that you're in, their own neighborhood that you're in. So a lot of times they won't even vote. And in Chicago, me being from Detroit, I know turnouts for voting there over the years have been terrible. And then people complain about what's going on in the city, but they actually don't realize you can actually make change in the local elections. I think that's where it really starts before you even get way up to the president, because at that point they're so high up in the clouds. They really don't see anything. So I think it's important. I'm glad that you mentioned the fact of local politics is very important, because that's where you can really make change, I think, in our society.
And it's not just about the presidential election. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to get out here and act like I'm Fannie Lou Hamer Jr. and I've been doing this since, birth, since gestation. No, I have not had my fist up that long. I understood the importance of voting when I stood in line for 4 hours waiting to vote for President Obama.
Yeah.
And to realize and see my elders stand before me, and I was like, okay, you 75 plus, girl, go ahead.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like I don't want to take that for granted.
Yeah. That is cool. And that's the first election that I voted in too. So I turned 18 in 2008. So that was the first election, and I felt like history was being made, and that was really cool. And then especially as women, when we step back and think, like, we've not been able to actually vote for that long. People of color have not actually been able to vote for that long, but women especially, so I mean, I love I love that right now this is on the forefront of everybody's minds. Like, you think that your vote can't change anything, but it can, and now's the time to get out and make it heard.
So obviously this can't be all about the women. I know it's important that women vote as well, so I got to stick up for the guys, being the only one in the studio right now. But obviously with, Women's March to the Polls this weekend, what's the importance of men being involved in this as well? How can they participate, and why it's important that, we, both types of people stand together in this march as well?
You just said it right there. We have to stand together because, if you really think about it, a lot of the things that have been happening in the news, a lot of things that have been happening within our own government has been a male-dominated juncture of issues. I'm going to just stay politically correct. But to have the backing of our men is so invaluable, and it's so important, it's so precious. It simply says we see you and we care. And that is what that message has been lacking, unfortunately, these last couple of weeks. And it needs to be heard, and it needs to be seen. A lot of instances where I've seen online, I've been addicted to some pages on social media, and I've seen women talk about they want to do different things, but some women have said, I don't feel like I have a voice even in my home.
Wow.
And so for someone
that's sad.
It is. It's very sad. And so for someone that feels like that from a home perspective, my goodness, how do you feel about voting? Do you really feel that it matters? Do you really feel that anyone cares? So yes, to have our brothers, our fathers, our husbands, our siblings,
B.Hun out there.
Absolutely, come in with your, come with your marching signs, have your combat boots on, ready out here for war with us. It's priceless. As a matter of fact, I hope to see you. If you need me to get you a T-shirt,
I would love a T-shirt. I'm definitely going to be there.
Awesome.
We'll both be there.
We'll both be there.
We're coming.
Alternative Fact Chicago will be in attendance.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so we kind of know, like, the true importance of women coming out and voting, especially, like, wrapped around with this Me Too movement and the March on Washington and the historic day without a woman. But I have a different question to ask, and that's about the Brett Kavanaugh situation. It's opened up a lot of eyes as we near the elections. Do you have any thoughts on this situation, or, like, what can the situation teach not only women voters, but voters in general as they support a candidate? Because obviously we don't know going into an election what these people did 35 plus years ago. So how can we kind of learn from this situation to make better, more informed decisions going forward?
Let's talk about it. What I will say, the views and opinions of my comments probably will not be off of the views and opinions of the women's march.
It's okay.
But
That's okay.
Yeah, but I will say this. It for such a position, for such a role that he would take, this is a lifetime appointment. So there should be an expectation of your life to be combed very finely.
Right.
That's an expectation. I've thought about things that I've done. I'm like, if I decide to run for office, my God.
Facts. I couldn't
Maybe
either.
not. Let me take the psychotherapy. So when you think about that, it's one of those things where I honestly feel like you should have saw it coming. You should have. And then because of what happened, because of the fact that there was a request for this investigation to take place with Dr. Blasey Ford, and I feel like there was an illusion of due diligence, but I don't feel that due diligence took place.
Right.
And so when you see this is happening in your face, I was actually in D.C. on Capitol Hill the weekend when the voting was taking place, and it was very eerie around Washington. And
I can only imagine, yeah.
It was very eerie. It somewhat looked like a ghost town in some instances. I was there for another march as well, another protest march concerning the situation. And one of the major things that stuck out to me was, is this the history that you want to create for this next generation? Do you want to tell young women, young men, little boys and little girls that you should be afraid?
Right. No, and I love that you said that, because you have to think too, like, is this going to be in the history books that our kids are reading in 20 years? Like, is there going to be a section on the Brett Kavanaugh trial? I mean, that's crazy to think about.
It probably will be a section on it, and it will be augmented for his good.
For sure.
It may not exist at all.
Right.
And it's and hey, this is America,
right.
You know? And so it's one of those things where every woman that walked away from the actual voting and when the confirmation took place and seeing the impact of it, and I saw people sitting down crying in devastation that the country that they once believed in would go to this extent. And so to see that happening, it's like, gather yourself, take care of yourself, but baby, we got to get out here and vote. Pay attention to who voted for what. Write it down. And now it's obvious that people are realizing, I have to pay attention. I'm pretty sure there are plenty of people out here who were like, this social justice stuff is cool. This whole political thing is cool, but it's so beyond me, which is fine. But in essence, this is not an elitist group of individuals. These are basic people who pay taxes like everybody else. You are that American dream, seriously. And so you have to pay attention to what's happening. And now that you see what's happening, now that you see your GOP, now that you see certain politicians, and it wasn't just the GOP. There were some Democrats that were in on this tango dance as well.
Right.
And so with that being said, I see you. I see you, and my vote sees you too.
Well said. And I even thought, I'm glad that you mentioned earlier, like the things you've done in your past. Like if you want to run for office, you may not be able to. I probably wouldn't be able to either. And it's the simple fact that was even a story for him, or even the fact he had to go to trial or a hearing. I think just that simple fact, he shouldn't have been nominated. Like, he shouldn't have gotten the spot. It just should be like, okay, just for the simple fact that this comes up right now, we need to move on and find someone who may be more qualified that hasn't had that type of instance happen. And the fact that he's still able to go forward and still get endorsements, we're in a crazy time. So I think it really endorses people to say, hey, we really do need to get out and vote and get the right people in office. And that's the only way to do it. You can't sit and complain if you don't go out and vote.
Right. That's a rabbit hole that I could gladly go down. Like, why is there a lifetime appointment for anything?
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think it was interesting, too, that you said that you were in Washington when it all happened, because for me and B.Hun being here in Chicago, and the Van Dyke trial verdict came out that morning, and Chicago was just like, yes, justice, and then the Kavanaugh, appointment came out later, and it was like with 2 steps forward, then 2 right back, and it was like, how do you even feel being from Chicago right now? I mean, that was just a crazy day for us.
And I because I work for a nonprofit in New York, everybody was texting me like, so what's going on? What's happening? What's the climate there? How is everybody feeling? What are people doing? Are the activists okay? How are they being supported? It was a lot, but I'm glad that we did get the justice that we wanted regarding his life. But I do know that the fight is not over, because the key word here that has to happen, not only from a local, a regional, and even on a higher level government perspective when it comes to politics, accountability has to happen. period.
Right.
For people, if you're going to do and live these things and take these jobs and operate in these positions, you best believe that you are going to be held accountable.
Right. And if you held no accountability for your actions at 18, do people change that much?
Well said. So switching back locally here to the city of Chicago, huge news came out a few weeks ago that our current mayor, Rahm Emanuel, is not running once again for the mayor of Chicago, which is big news. Maybe some things going on behind the scenes, but that's another conversation for another day. But let's do it. I got a lot to say about that, but for interest of time, we'll hold that for another episode. But speaking of that, obviously we're going to have a new mayor. Might be the most important election we've had in a long time for Chicago in electing the right mayor for the city of Chicago. So how can women voters have an impact? Why is it so important that they really get out and vote to, obviously elect the next mayor of Chicago?
It is so important for people to know, number one, the power that the mayor holds. I believe that it's important for our women voters to understand the role that they can play as constituents and what you can demand of your mayor, to be very honest. Because a lot of people don't know what they do. They just, this person is mayor, and they're just like the president of the city. Understand what they do. Understand the role that they play in your life, how they can affect your household. And what I like about what's happening right now, number one, a lot of candidates took to the streets running. Like one particular candidate, I'm like, how long have you been in this? I feel like you've been running since I was in high school. But I appreciate it because now you're like a household name, which is very smart. So yes, there are a lot of people, I think like 12, 13 people that are contending for this position, which is great. But you need to understand who these individuals are. You need to understand what they stand for. And the importance of women knowing this information is because we have the ability to galvanize and mobilize and actually get in different places. We have power. A lot of us have power and privilege in different places. We're able to get seats at certain tables where we're able to say, I need this particular person to stand for this. And then bring others along to the table with you who have needs that are greater than yours and need to be met. And these individuals need to be made aware. There needs to be awareness. And women have a great opportunity of doing it. Anybody has an opportunity to do it. B.Hun, I just thought about men. So
there you go. Thank you.
He felt left out for a second. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but anybody can do this. Really. Anybody can.
Nice. And then so looking at other local governments, so in the race for the governor of Illinois, we have two candidates, obviously J.B. Pritzker, Democrat, Bruce Rauner, Republican, and for the first time in a really long time, both Democrat and Republican in the race are in support of preserving women's reproductive rights, which as women is normally the biggest issue that not only do we vote, thinking of, but also, I've had debates with women, debates with men. It's like the forefront issue on a lot of our minds. So with this being the case this year, what do you think is going to be the issue top of women's mind? What do you think is going to be pushing them to vote one way or the other, since both are in support of this really big issue for us?
I believe what's going to happen is that this is going to be an intergenerational occasion. I'm thinking of the generations of Gloria Steinem. I'm thinking of the Heather Booths, and I'm thinking of, our representatives from the March for Our Lives, right, where you see the trajectory of how there's been a fight for equality, how there's been a fight for our rights for reproduction. And I believe that it's going to be so important for our women to make sure that I know what you say you're going to do according to what you want to be heard about you, but I need to see evidence. And so I'm calling for women to research what's actually happening. Give yourself the ability to look for the receipts of J.B. Pritzker and look for the receipts of the present Governor Rauner. What have they actually done?
Right.
Have you stood for this? And if so, let me see exactly what were the steps. And then also, what's your connection with our healthcare crises? Where do you stand on that? What are you for? Are you for making sure that if a woman who is a single parent is working a minimum wage job, does she also have access to childcare? So we have to really open up our eyes and unpack this thing and pay attention to it. And that's what I like the most about what's coming up for the Women's March. We are going to make sure that this thing is intersectional, and not only from whoever's showing up, but the topics that we're going to talk about are going to be intersectional. And so that way we're able to make sure that, for our sisters and our elders who were marching back in the 60s, like, I got to vote for this crap again. I mean, I got to contend for this crap again. It's like now they're hearing their grandchildren. And so they're hearing what's happening. They understood what the fight looked like. They understand where we are right now. And then they're realizing, I need this fight to look different for the future.
So I'm going to put you on the spot so far from the research you've done between Rauner and Pritzker on the topic we just said. Who do you think is doing a better job so far at identifying these issues and actually done the research so far?
I am going to say that I am still in the process of my research.
Great answer.
Let me tell you why.
Okay.
Because number one, this is campaign time. So everything is beautiful. It's flowery.
Right.
It's awesome.
Right.
It's, yes, vote for me. I'm here. I'm going to make it happen. So, yeah, I'm still in my research.
There you go.
I am.
I see all those commercials and infomercials and like, I'll do this and I'll do that. I'm like, no, you're not.
I will walk on water.
like, it all sounds great.
Well, and I'm just this year, the slander ones, like it's been a little feisty. Like they both have, the debates and their campaigns against each other. I feel like they're kind of talking less about what they're going to do and more about how you shouldn't vote for the other person, which is, I mean, it's hard. It makes it hard. It puts the pressure on us to all do the research and really know your own facts,
Yeah, it's true. You got to know your own facts.
We'll get into the meat and potatoes of this weekend. We got the Women's March of the Polls. We'll be in attendance, so if you see Alternative Fact Chicago, come say hi. But getting back to the details, how can one participate this weekend? We want as many people to come out and support, listen to the show, people in Chicago overall. So how can one participate this weekend in the Women's March of the Poll, time, and all that? Give us the details.
Cool. So, number one, get up. It's Saturday morning.
Set your alarm.
Set your alarms. Get up. Go eat breakfast with the fun people in Hyde Park at what's that cute little restaurant that President Obama pops up at occasionally, Beloy's, and on 53rd Street. Go get some breakfast early and then come on down. 9 a.m. is where our first-time voter village is going to open. And I'm really excited about the first-time voter village. And I'm excited for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's going to be a lit little area. Let me tell you that. We have some performers that are coming.
Nice.
Because if you're asking young people to come, you have to have the environment alive for them to show up that early in the morning.
Yes.
Because, come on now, what really exists before 9 a.m.? Seriously.
Coffee.
Not in the fall.
So we have our first-time voter village. And another thing that I want to definitely make an emphasis is that, yes, we are excited about pursuing our younger generations. Everyone calls everybody millennials. Everybody's not millennials. It's Generation Z, and we have millennials, because a lot of our millennials are in their 30s now. But we want to make sure that everyone who is voting for the very first time has this experience. And also a demographic that may not get a lot of attention are those who are new to the country. Those who are new citizens. I have 2 girlfriends that are actually new to newest citizens here in the United States. One is from Rwanda and the other one is from Durban, South Africa, and they're voting for the very first time.
Wow.
So I'm super excited for them. So, and it's also another demographic that we don't pay attention to. Someone who decided to say, you know what, I need to get in the fight.
Mm-hmm.
I need my voice to be heard, because I know there are people from different demographics, from different communities, where they never vote because they felt like their vote didn't matter.
Right.
We're talking about them, and this could be an elderly person. This could be a person in their middle ages. This could be a person that's in their 20s. This could be someone with a background that was once incarcerated. However that circumstance looked, or however that circumstance was, get out here. We want you. So every first-time voter has the opportunity to come out here and vote. We are going to have performers. Now, the voter village opens up at 9 o'clock. Yes. Starbucks will be on hand.
There we go.
4 pumps of espresso. So we're going to have them available. And then that is going to be in the area of Columbus Drive and Congress Parkway at Balboa. And so we're going to have the space also open for families, for those that are differently able to come and feel a part. It's going to look like that picnic that we always talk about.
There we go.
It's going to look like that.
That's good.
Yeah, and so we want people to come. Now, the rally area where we're going to do our speakers and our performers and things like that, that starts at 10 a.m. And so we've got some phenomenal speakers lined up. Can I please request?
Yes, do it.
Better.
We have Dr. Barbara Ransby, who is the author of Making All Black Lives Matter, Reimaging Freedom in the 21st Century. She's a historian and an activist. When the woman speaks, I stop.
Yeah.
I listen. We have Heather Booth, who's coming. She's an activist and founder of the Jane Collective, a Chicago underground abortion service operating that took place from 1969 until after the 1973 Roe versus Wade decision. Now that's history.
Right.
That's history, and she's going to be here. We also have Adrienne Lever coming. She is a political director for Swing Left, and that's a new national movement to take back the House. She's not coming to play. We have also Tashina Hayward. She is a first-time voter and a SIEU member. Super excited about her presence.
Nice.
We also have young Miss Amani Johnson, who's a co-founder of GRAVE, St. Sabina Church's youth-led anti-violence movement. So she's coming from St. Sabina. And we all know Father Flager, who is down for us all, is all about this movement. So I'm very glad that he's sending representation. And then the one, the only, the profound, the prolific, the talented, the genius MC for this event is going to be Melissa Dupree.
Okay.
And she is our Chicago actor. As a matter of fact, she was on Chicago PD last week.
Nice.
Yes, she is she's the most creative human that I've ever met. She's also a phenomenal comic. So we have a nice little main stage of activities with our speakers and our MCs. And then we also have performers.
Cool. Awesome. Well, we're totally looking forward to it. Like we said, we'll be there. But this is about getting out there to vote. Obviously, the party's going to be there. The coffee's going to be there. It's going to be great speakers, and it's going to be a great time. And the most important thing is to get out there and vote. So if you're coming Saturday, or if you just haven't registered to vote yet, what can you do?
To register to vote, make it simple on yourself. Go online.
Yes.
You can literally make it simple. Google register to vote. I did it. It took literally 3.8 seconds to pull up where I needed to go to vote.
Perfect.
As long as you know your zip code, you can go and you can vote. Come on down and you can do early voting. I plan to vote this weekend. Why? Because I'm lazy.
You'll be there. You'll be there already. It's the perfect time.
November 6th to do that. As a matter of fact, November 6th, I'm making a commitment to take people from my community to our polling place.
Nice.
So that's what I want.
That's not lazy. That's opportunistic.
I don't want to get up.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Well, this has been very informative, powerful, a little break from the normal Alternative Fact Chicago. But I think we had to do this. Like I said, it's very important to vote. It's been a crazy couple of years in our society. We can't have people complaining anymore. So if you don't want to complain, you got to get out there and do something. And the most important thing, and I wish you talked about a little more, but it's okay, is when you mentioned it earlier, is people say that their one vote doesn't count. Such a myth. Like, it's such a myth. Like, your voice can be heard. Your one vote can go such a long way. So I think it's important that everyone gets out this weekend. If you cannot in Chicago, please just register to vote. And once you register to vote, don't just register. Please get out to the polls and actually do vote. It's very important.
Register the morning of November 6th, and you can actually cast your vote that day.
Nice.
But it's Chicago's great for that. But my thing is, come out, party with us. We're going to have a great time. It's going to be some phenomenal musicians and radio stations. Everybody's coming out. It's going to be that picnic. You don't want to miss out.
Absolutely. So got to get you up out of here. But before we go, plug, Women's March Chicago, plug all your social media. Where can they find you guys online?
Yes, you can find us on the Book of Facebook. You can go to Women's March on Chicago, and we're right there. Everything that you need, all the information is right there. We kept it simple, and so that way we can make sure that people can get on to us very quickly. And there you can find the event page, and you can go on and get additional information. You can find out the route, because we're going to march at 12:30, and we're going to go down to Jackson, to Federal Plaza, where additional stuff is going to happen and additional life is going to be had. So everybody got to come.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Miss Johndalyn. Thanks for not only being a part of this and educating people and putting on this fantastic event where women can feel empowered and men can feel empowered to support us, so we can get out there and encourage people to vote. Thank you for taking your time to be a part of that organization, taking the time to join us today. I think our listeners got a lot out of it. And then, of course, we just love having people like you on who are as passionate about Chicago as we are. So
thank you for having me, for valuing our organization, making sure that our voices are heard. See? Thank you.
Love it. Yep.
I want my shirt.
Women's March to the Polls right here in Chicago, October 12th. Join us. We'll be out there. John will be out there. Everybody will be out there. Everybody.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for having me.
Awesome. So that was Johndalyn Armstrong, one of the co-organizers of Women's March Chicago, for Women's March to the Polls this weekend in Chicago. This Saturday at Grand Park. Will be in attendance. That was an amazing conversation. I'm so glad she came here and did that.
Yeah, me too. She was awesome. It's very rare that when you do things like this, you get sent somebody that actually is a good speaker and knows what she's talking about. She killed it. Thanks so much, Johndalyn. That was really informative, really fun. Great to have her on.
That was one take too.
Yeah.
No edits. We're good.
You're obsessed with that. You're
because I know a lot of podcasts. I won't name names, but they gotta edit, go back 5-6 times, redo it 10 times over.
Wait, that sounded bad. Let me try again.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't sound good. That was
No,
we're professionals here. So that was awesome, Johndalyn. We'll make sure to find you this weekend. But please, we can't stress how important it is to register to vote. If you can come out and support this weekend, we would love to have you. If not, it's all good. But please register, and then please to actually get out and vote.
She said she registered to vote in 3 seconds. So you could do it too.
Absolutely. So we're going to move on. Make sure you leave some comments and concerns. If you didn't like what she said, post it on social media. It'll be out everywhere. First thing Thursday morning. You can email us with, questions, comments, what you liked or didn't like at alternativefactschicago@gmail.com. But we're going to move forward. So Everything Chicago segment is sponsored by the Wrigley Report. So Cubs fans, if you are looking for the latest Wrigley renovations, updates, team news, player analysis, and overall Cub news, look no further than a Wrigley Report. Your source for all Chicago Cub news. You can find them on all social media sites at the Wrigley Report. Shouts out to Jason. He ran the Chicago Marathon this past weekend. Said he nailed it, got through it. I'm amazed at those that can do it. I see a lot of people on my social media that did the race. I'm like, I almost feel like I need to get out and try it because it's very emotional. It shows you can do it. I saw Kevin Hart actually did the race. Did you know that? I didn't. I know he was there. I'm like, how does Kevin Hart, biggest man on earth, have time to run Chicago Marathon? Not even to run it, but you have to train and actually run it. So, and I
wake up one day and be like, I'm gonna run a marathon.
Right. Like, how does he have time to train? So, shouts out Jason. Shouts out Wrigley Report. And let's move on to Chicago Marathon. But yeah, what's going on for Everything Chicago?
All right, so Donald Trump in the news yet again stated that Chicago, but more specifically most states, should adopt the stop and frisk model. He pinpointed Chicago, saying that we should adopt it because our crime rate is super high. What do you think of that?
It's ridiculous. Like, I think he says things without actually doing facts or research of it. I don't know who's worse, him or Kanye West. Like, I think they take things from like a high level and just spew out statements, I think, just to get support from anyone that'll listen. Doing the stop and frisk model will do more harm than will do good. I think what he's failed to realize that, yes, obviously Chicago's not perfect. Yes, there's still a high crime, but in the simple fact that the past 3 years has actually been a decline in homicides. So I think there's been, I saw a stat that said there's been over 100 fewer homicides, over 500 fewer shooting victims in 2018 compared to 2017 through the first 9 months. Yes, it's not fixed. Yes, there's still issues, but hey, I think there's definitely a start. And they did this policy. They tried to have this policy in New York City. It did not work. I think what happens is you end up targeting, and I saw a stat that said that you mainly target, minorities, whether it's blacks or Hispanics. And a lot of times a stat that said that more often than not, what you found, you didn't even find anything in most percentages of the cases. And anytime when you did the stop and frisk model, what you actually found, you might have found knives or anything like that. You didn't necessarily even find guns. So you're wasting your time as a police officer actually stopping people for nothing, almost, and racially profiling them, as opposed to actually being out in the streets and actually doing things for good. So I don't think maybe I'm just looking at the stats right now. I think it's almost like a waste of time. And I think, we will be spending our money as taxpayers for the wrong way as opposed to actually for good. I think it's just nonsense. I think he was just talking out of his ass. I think it's just a way of promoting dictatorship. And you're actually just saying, here, we're going to be stopping these types of people just because of the color of your skin, because you may think that you could be doing wrongdoing when you're really not. That's not going to fix the problem at all.
Right, and absolutely piggyback on what you said, it's a waste of time, because they said, the statistic in this article just said that for every 20,000 stop and frisks that they perform, they catch maybe one thing. So besides the point that tax dollars are going to waste, time is going to waste, people's valuable time of people that are trying to get somewhere around the city, go somewhere, and I mean, it's just ridiculous that we're even thinking about that when we know from facts that it hasn't helped in New York, it hasn't helped in Los Angeles, and that our crime rate is going down. I totally agree with you on what you said about Trump just jumping off the wheelhouse and saying something without thinking it through, because for one, we know he does that. Check his Twitter. And for two, I think that what this really was like pandering to the local police, specifically here in Chicago. So as you know, last week, Jason and Dyke found guilty of second-degree murder, 16 accounts of aggravated assault for the death of Laquan McDonald, and that was back in 2014. So at the time of this incident, McDonald was armed with a knife. So Trump was basically speaking to local police here in Chicago, saying that, I feel like this was an outreach to them, telling them that he supports them because, if Laquan McDonald had been found with the knife, none of this would have ever happened. And of course, at the time of the incident, he had a knife, but officers argued in their defense that they feared for their lives because McDonald might have been carrying a gun. So not only was he just absolutely pandering to police here in Chicago, but speaking out about a city that frankly has nothing to do with. I mean, besides the Trump Tower, when are you in Chicago? When do you deal with us? When do you know what we go through? When did you take the time to look up the violence is down right now?
Right.
Just stay in your lane, Trump. I feel like they're handling it, and I just think it was a cry to the police officers to say that he's listening.
I don't even think he's been in Chicago once since he's been in the office. I really don't think he has. I don't think he'll ever actually even come to Chicago either. No one wants him here. And I think, piggybacking off what you said and switching briefly, I know this wasn't even our topics, the Jason Van Dyke story, I think it's a start too for him being, proven guilty. It may just be one case. I'm sure there'll be other situations that go awry, but I think now, more important than ever, it puts the fear in the eyes of cops that, hey, all right, before you would always get away with this. You could, kill an innocent person no matter what the story may be, no matter what. That's another topic for another day. But the fact that you can, kill someone and actually get acquitted of it, those days may slowly be changing. And I think this ruling here in Chicago was a start. And boy, I was in Detroit last week and I was like, man, if Jason's found acquitted, I felt bad for the city and what was going to happen, because it would have been a rough day if he would have been acquitted. But I'm glad that they made the right choice here.
Yes, and absolutely what you said about cops being fearful right now. But the point of the issue is that they're not killing innocent people. What they're doing is they're failing to perform their duty, which is to serve and protect.
Right.
It's to serve and protect both those who you feel are guilty and both those who you feel are not. And that's where the police officers are failing Chicago right now. Serve and protect. That's what we're asking you to do, and that's what we expect you to do.
Absolutely. So Donald Trump, that was wrong. Stop and frisk should never happen. And
Donald Trump and stop and frisk.
I don't know, what is he talking about?
What happened to you? Like, what do you know about stop and frisk?
Just coming up with some nonsense. So let's switch focus to half nonsense, but even more important, let's talk to a great guy for the city of Chicago, a guy I rep and love, is Chance the Rapper. So I don't know if you got a chance to check it out. I'm not sure if you did either, Kate, but he actually was on the Joe Budden podcast this past weekend. It was an informative conversation, a great conversation. It actually got me to open up and see Chance the Rapper in a different light. Like, you never really see him in interviews being that open and honest. He seemed very comfortable, and his answers seemed just true and genuine. So did you get a chance to check it out?
I did, and I agree with you. He killed it.
Did you see that he said Rap Devil was better than Killshot?
Oh my gosh, that's what you.
That's what I got. So absolutely. So I just wanted to make sure you heard that Rap Devil was better than Killshot.
Yeah, that what we're gonna focus on is with the buzz around the upcoming joint album with Kanye, and he divulged some stuff about it. He talked about how he doesn't. Not only does he not really think it's going to happen, but he doesn't really think it's going to be quality, which is what I took away from it.
I did too, and that was the bigger thing, and you could tell he was starting to slowly fall back from Kanye. Like, obviously, he said that's his family, that's his brother, he supports him, but it's hard. He's kind of stuck in a tough place trying to defend him, but actually knowing what's morally right. And then two, the biggest takeaway I got with him was that he went back to, we're talking about Kanye's music, he went back to the college dropout days and late registration. That was over 10 plus years ago. And the fact that he didn't mention right, the fact that he didn't mention any of his current music in a roundabout way, he didn't want to necessarily admit this, but it was Chance's way of saying that Kanye's music is and has been trash.
For sure. And he stood up for Kanye definitely to an extent. I mean, he talked about like supporting Kanye through this Trump thing and supporting Kanye with whatever he does, and just saying like the problem is that Kanye is in the headlines right now and the album is not priority to him. And so he basically alluded to the fact that if the album's not priority to him, it's not going to be priority to Chance the Rapper. It's probably not going to happen. It's probably not going to be quality if he did. But I think what resonated with me is he kind of threw shade at Ye and was like, Ye's not a mentor, he's a homie. And it was kind of like, ooh.
Yep.
Because I feel like Kanye probably thinks that he's a mentor to Chance the Rapper. Kanye and Chicago music go hand in hand. And
right.
You gotta put those two together. But with him making all these changes in his life and everything he's going through right now, I feel like the shift has totally moved to Chance the Rapper, that he's the sound of Chicago and who we think of with Chicago music. And I almost feel like that was some shade.
Definitely was. And it was very telling, the fact that Chance really didn't know what his next body of work would be for himself. Like, is he going to come with a mixtape? He was like, I don't know if I should make a mixtape, an EP, an album, or what. So I think the cool part is the fact that he understands his place, that he can take his time with music, and when he drops something, it's going to resonate. And he was very confident in himself. Like, he just said anytime he drops something, it's dope, it's amazing, which actually it is. So, I mean, he's right there, but he doesn't seem to fit in the mold of where we're in the rinse and repeat age of music, to where if you're not dropping projects every 3 to 6 months, you're almost forgotten about. I think he understands his place, which is important to make great albums or music like The Coloring Book or Acid Rap that will live the test of time. You have to take your time and not worry about fitting in with the current mode. And I think it's great and dope that he's very down to earth and realizes that he doesn't have to rush music out just to stay relevant. Like, whenever he drops something, Chance is going to make a great album.
Yeah, no collabs with Lil Pump.
Yeah, and like, what was that at Saturday Night Live? Like, what is going on? It's it's nonsense. But at least we have someone right now who's really rocking with the city and is a good, genuine dude. And I love the fact that Chance is always in Chicago. He's like, I live in Chicago. I have a workspace here. Like, I stay here. My family's here. He didn't move to Los Angeles or New York or Atlanta like every other rapper. So check it out if you haven't got a chance. Like I said, Joe Budden Podcast. You can go on his YouTube or Spotify as well. But it's a 2-hour conversation. I think it's very enlightening. You really get to see Chance in a spot or a light that you never really got a chance to see him before.
For sure.
God, you in that word. Speaking of a show, but the mid. Okay, we're gonna switch gears here, and the only reason I talked about this because Chicago Staple Club. If you lived in Chicago for a long time, me and my homies, all my friends, a ton of people. If you lived in Chicago for a while, you have been or have heard of the Mid, one of the biggest EDM clubs that we've had in Chicago pretty much ever since the rise and the boom of the EDM phase. But this hot story just came out just this past week. It was all over Facebook. All my friends were tagging me in the post. I was like, I know, I've seen it, that the Mid will be closing its doors in February of 2019. This is very telling because obviously there are other EDM clubs open like Prism, there's Concord, this and that and the other, but the Mid was like the first of the EDM wave of spots that were open. Like, I've been there, I've seen Skrillex, I've seen Afrojack there, I've seen Cascade there, I've seen all the biggest DJs there. It's very homey, it's small, it's just a great time. And the fact that it's closing in February of 2019, I think is very telling. They're going to be doing they're going to be making like office space or something they're going to be doing with it, which is totally different from the norm there too. So I think that's a big story. I think that may be significantly showing the end of the EDM phase. Not necessarily the end, but the boom is definitely over. What's your thoughts on the Mid actually closing?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like you said, this was the first big EDM club here in Chicago, and now it's going down. And I just feel like it's telling that EDM bust. Like, it's just like you said, the boom is over. It's not really like the hot thing anymore. And some major people did perform there. This was Skrillex's first Chicago performance. Mm-hmm. So if you follow EDM, if you go to these clubs, if you patronize places like this, I think it's going to be telling. I'm just trying to think of what you said, but that I think they're all kind of going to close. EDM's kind of done. There's a lot of better, intimate places you can hang out in Chicago and listen to great music, and there's a lot more local music being made right now. That's fantastic, and EDM's kind of like losing its place and losing its niche. So I think we're going to see this everywhere, not just Chicago. Yeah, definitely. I think it's a bigger thing for Chicago. I always wonder, like, a lot of these clubs just don't last. Like, they open and shut. I thought like the Mid was a staple that was always open. There's another club here in Chicago called the Underground that's lasted the test of time. So we have like new clubs now like Prism and Tao Chicago is now open. It's kind of curious of like why all these clubs in Chicago can't really last and stand the test of time. Like, they open and shut as a different name under different management. So that's a bigger story. But maybe it's just people want something different after every 5 or 6 years. Right. Not more like. Hey, but hip-hop is the number one genre right now. It's very mainstream. Like, we were watching the AMAs last night. They didn't even talk about EDM music at all. I think the Chainsmokers, who's barely EDM anymore, like, they're more mainstream, normal music now. They're like pop music now. So I think that wave is over. But in speaking of the Mid, so I think it's closing February of 2019. They did say they're going to be doing mini closing parties before it shuts down. So I'll definitely have to get there one final time to cry and say my goodbyes. To remember the good old days. Right. Back when I was young and reckless. Oh, isn't that now? A little bit. I'm a little better now, but, I still have my moments here and there. Absolutely. Right. As we're getting into quick hits, gotta say a huge thank you to our sponsors, Posh by Imani, women's apparel boutique based out of Houston and founded on faith, love, and the right to stand out. Serving all women one curve at a time. Check out their quality, affordable, chic apparel at poshbyimani.com. And they got some deals going on right now. Free shipping until the end of the year. Tons of new inventory. Just checked them out. And if you want to see what they got, so check them out on social media. On Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, it's Posh by Imani. She's a really cool business owner, and she's got a lot going on besides the store. So she posts some motivational stuff on Instagram, too. Very cool business to follow. So check them out. Tell them I'll turn it back to Chicago City. What up? Yeah. Absolutely. So let's get some quick hits. What's going on with Drew Brees? Drew Brees, all-time passing yards leader. Big news for him, of course. Hall of Fame worthy. So I got a question. Is he top 5 QB of all time?
So I won't go top 5. I think that he has to be 100% top 10. I was in some Twitter battles with people last night, just kind of get the pulse. He was like, why do you make these statuses or like tweets sometimes? I just want to like see what the energy is of the people that gives you content to talk about. And it actually works. If people go commenting away, it's hilarious. But I will give him maybe top 10 to possibly top 7. Like, I'm not putting him over like Tom Brady, Joe Montana, maybe not even Brett Favre. I probably won't put him over like Aaron Rodgers, Dan Marino. I'm probably missing someone. I think he's gone through a lot. I think it's just still, he's a great quarterback. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's still something just a little bit missing. Like, he's there, but like not all the way there. And just to say that he has the most all-time passing yards doesn't necessarily always mean something, because in another 5, 6, 7 years, Matt Stafford of the Detroit Lions is on pace to break that record, and he hasn't even won a playoff game. So just for the simple fact that he's the all-time passing yards leader, he hasn't won anything. So if Drew Brees can win one more Super Bowl, I'll give him top 5, but I'm going to go top 10 to top 7. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he's all-time passing leader. He's got MVP and a Super Bowl win under his belt. But there's other things that you have to look at on an awesome franchise history quarterback. I mean, not just football IQ, but arm strength, footwork, strength under pressure. And I think the thing holding him back, I will agree, he's not in my top 5. He is in my top 10. But I think the people that come before him, like Tom Brady, Joe Montana, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, and Brett Favre, that's my top 5. And I think that what they have that Drew Brees does not have is just the namesake of the team. I mean, the Saints are rarely contenders, and I think that's what holds him back. I think that's what he's missing, is he hasn't gotten on with a fantastic franchise team that could really take him to the next level. Yeah,
but when they won that Super Bowl, was after Hurricane Katrina. It's kind of like the perfect storm of everything just kind of worked out at the perfect time. There you go. Wow, I just made that up, but it actually worked out. So, but no, he's amazing. I think if he can get one more Super Bowl, they have a pretty good team this season. Not sure if they can do it, but I think if he gets one more, maybe top 5, but still top 10 all time for all the quarterbacks has been. It's still a great feat. So shouts out to Drew Brees. I think it's a bigger thing. He's a great family man. Yeah. Like, after he broke that record, like the first thing he said to his sons, like, you can be anything that you want, with hard work and effort. That was amazing. So he just seemed like a genuine good guy. Absolutely. So switching to another good guy, my guy T.I. Man, so he just dropped his 10th studio album, Dime Trap, this past week. I did get a chance to hear it this weekend with my homies at Central. I thought it was a good, productive album. I love T.I. He always just drops great music. So is he on one of your all-time great lists of rappers?
He is. He is on my top. I've seen T.I. live in concert twice. He absolutely puts on a fantastic show, continually puts out good music. And, like, he's old. He is
What do you mean by old?
He's pretty old. He's pretty up there.
He's still in his 30s, right? It's got to be.
I don't think so. I think he's 40.
I don't know. We'll have to, we're not great at fact checking. Alternative Fact Chicago, but I want to say he's probably upper 30s. I want to say he's probably like 38, maybe. I could be way wrong.
He's pushing it, and he still puts on a fantastic show. Just absolutely have the crowd going wild. Song after song, people singing along, sold out. And he is on my top list of rappers. Him, Biggie, Jay-Z, Dre, Ice Cube, and Eminem.
There we go. So I would say, in terms of my favorite rappers, he's definitely in my personal favorite top 5. If I'm going to list who's the actual best, I'm not going to put him in the best top 5 rappers, but personal favorite, yes. In terms of down south rappers, I would always take him over a Rick Ross or a Jeezy. Only real group, obviously, is like an Outkast, Andre 3000, but in terms of Atlanta rappers, he's definitely up there, just right under Outkast to me. He changed the game from, his first couple albums. It was a trap music, urban legend, like Tip versus T.I. album. This his whole first run, like his first 5 years, like he actually had the crown. It's like right between, it was like after the Nelly Eminem days and T.I. came along, right before Lil Wayne came in. Like those 3 or 4 years in between, like T.I. had the crown. He actually might have been one of or best in the game at that point in time. So he's on my all-time favorites. If you don't like him, don't add us. We don't care, but T.I.'s a go. I've seen him live in concert too. I saw him in Vegas, a couple other places. He's actually a great live performer. He's just an all-around great artist. And I think the fact that you can get 10 studio albums in this day and age and still seem relevant in the culture is amazing to see.
Right? You said it like 3 times today. Like, you don't like that, don't follow us.
I said don't add us.
Okay.
Yeah, don't follow us and don't add us are a little bit different, but you can not follow us too. But how could you not like T.I.? He's a dope dude. And his vocabulary is ridiculous. Like he gives me a headache sometimes with the things that he says. I think he does it on purpose just to piss people off because you can't understand what he's saying. But it sounds so good though, like his vernacular and like all those type of words. I don't know. I'm smart too, but I don't use those big words either, but it's awesome.
All right, we got to switch to college football going on right now, and you're like a huge fan. So what's the biggest surprise so far in college football this season?
So I think the biggest surprise has been the lack of surprises right now. Like I think the college football season has been pretty straightforward, almost boring, so to speak. Like there hasn't been a lot of great games. Like the Ohio State Penn State game was pretty good. Notre Dame has had some good games, but it seems right now we're on a pace to just an Alabama Ohio State national championship game. It's very straightforward. Like I haven't seen any other team outside of maybe Notre Dame or maybe Georgia that can really compete with them. It's just Alabama, Ohio State, and there's like they're a class of their own, and then everyone else is kind of just there. So obviously it's still early in the season. I think they said there's like 11 teams left that are still undefeated. I think 5 of those 11 teams have road games this weekend, so that'll change. But right now the season just seems straightforward. The Big Ten's not as great as I thought that they would be. But yeah, pretty straightforward season. I think it's been kind of boring, but it's still early. Once conference season starts and goes forward, things do get a little crazy.
Yeah, Notre Dame has been on the surprise list for me this year, but actually the Florida win over LSU this past weekend was one of the biggest surprises for me. You know, sometimes you say like teams just have bad years, and Florida has been one of them. But you know, Jim McElwain's gone, Dan McMillan's in, and now I think the Gators will be back to 9 wins. So their regular team, I think this is their year.
Are you a Gator fan?
I'm not actually. I'm really not. I'm an Alabama fan. So, you know, not bandwagon. I've liked them forever.
Yeah.
My first college game, but I'm, as terrible as it sounds, I get tired rooting for the team that's just like always winning. You know?
Yeah.
You gotta like the surprises. You gotta like the team.
Yeah. It's tough. Like I like Alabama, but if you're an actual fan to see them win year after year, at Ohio State win year after year, like doesn't get it boring. I guess no, winning doesn't get boring, but sometimes you just want to shake up.
Well, yeah, and that was my first ever college game, and they didn't win that game, so I'm like a real fan. But I mean, yeah, the last couple of years it's just been like, oh, okay, we're good again.
Exactly.
I mean, it's terrible to say. I wish I could say that about like the Bears, but you know,
they're getting better though. Switching gears here in terms of the Yankees, the New York Yankees and Boston Red Sox, are you shocked or surprised that the Red Sox handled the Yankees that easily in the series?
I'm not surprised. This Red Sox team is the most winningest team in their franchise history, and I feel like this was coming.
I think so, and unfortunately, I'm a Yankees fan over the two. I thought the Yankees surprised. They had a really good season. Like they won well over 100 games. They had a strong team. But like I said, they just ran into a buzzsaw. I think the Red Sox are by far and away the best team in baseball right now. And it's unfortunate. So I'm not really surprised. I thought the Yankees would give a much better fight. I was hoping that they could win. But you're right. I think it is the Red Sox season. Straightforward with that. That's cut and dry.
Boring when we agree.
I know.
We kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but moving over to the American Music Awards, happened Tuesday night. Really politically charged this year. Taylor Swift urging people to vote in the midterms after she publicly slammed Republican Senate candidate Marsha Blackburn. So basically went on her Instagram to say, like, I support women in politics, but I will never support Marsha Blackburn. And then, of course, comedian Billy Eichner said that these midterms are the, quote, biggest elections of our lifetime. Went on to talk about urging your friends, family to vote. And she said if you believe in equality for women and people of color and the LGBT community, then you need to vote. All-time low rating at the AMAs this year.
Already?
People are saying, 29% drop in viewership. And a lot of people are saying because it's politically charged. Does anybody, like, even care anymore?
I won't say it's because it's politically charged. Like, you would have to watch it to know it's politically charged.
Right.
Like, people weren't watching it at all. I think the first thing is the fact that it was on a Tuesday. I totally forgot that it was on. I knew weeks ago it was on, but I was like surfing through channels and fell on it like 45 minutes after it started. I'm like, oh my God, I think I texted you. I was like, the AMAs are on. I had no idea. They're normally a Sundays or a Mondays. Like Tuesdays are a weird time to have award shows. It wasn't really publicized. So I think that was the bigger thing as opposed to actually just people, the politically charged nature of it. I think it's very important to speak on these things at those types of events because those are the people that we need actually getting on and voting. So I thought that was a great aspect of the show. The show itself was straightforward. I still think 2018 is the year of the women. Most of the performances were women: Taylor Swift, Camila Cabello, Cardi B, just Carrie Underwood. So I think it is the year of the women, as I mentioned in the past too. So I don't think the ratings decline has to do with voting. I think the ratings decline has to do with Tuesday. It's a bad day, and maybe people just don't care about award shows.
Maybe. I don't think they care. I don't watch them anymore. But I will say, though, we've talked about politics like this whole episode. I did see online that they are basically blaming Taylor Swift in a good way for the 15% spike in young women registering to vote in Tennessee. So she's been very, very active on her Instagram about voting and urging people to get out there. So if anything else, someone's listening.
Absolutely. Speaking of music, A Star Is Born is getting critical acclaims right now. I haven't seen it as of yet. You know, the movie with Lady Gaga, Bradley Cooper. Looks great. I definitely want to see it, but
Like a remake of a remake of a remake.
something like that. But I heard it's good. I definitely want to see it. I love movies tailored around the music industry. So with that being said, what is your favorite music industry related movie?
Mariah Carey and Glitter.
What? Oh my God. Are you serious?
No, I'm just kidding. Actually, one of my favorites of all time is Ray.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that is a great movie. I'm gonna go 8 Mile with Eminem, not just because I'm from Detroit, but because I thought it was a dope movie. That's one of my favorites. If it comes on like now and I'm actually have nothing else to watch, I will literally watch the whole thing from beginning to end.
I think I know every single word of that movie.
You know the freestyle at the end,
Oh, yeah.
the Papa Doc one, all that.
I thought of that later.
Let's do it. That's
More
hilarious.
music news, Azealia Banks and Lana Del Rey going straight at it. So we talked about it on last week's episode. Kanye posting the, Make America Great Again picture on Instagram, and then Lana Del Rey came for him, saying that it was just like throwing shade at a whole culture, basically. Bad enough that you voted for him, but told them both that they were narcissists, and basically just yeah, I don't even know. Just went for on Instagram. And then Azealia Banks came back and made some comments towards Lana Del Rey. She said, "Wow, okay, Lana, this will be cute if you were consistent with your outrage and refused to collaborate with A$AP Rocky, who has physically assaulted women too. To me, this just looks like the typical white woman using a weakened target to pretend to be an ally. Don't use Kanye for your own vapid attempts to seem politically aware when there's so much more bootleg witchcraft you could be doing to try and take down 45. Kanye is not your enemy or the enemy." And then Lana, of course, came back.
Powerful words, but I'm going to take Lana's side just to simplify. I'm not a huge Azealia Banks fan. I think she could use her platform for so much bigger with her actual music. I think she's wasted so much time like being in like social media beefs or being in other people's business that I think it's impacted and hurt her actual music itself. I think a lot of times she should stay out of these matters and just go make music. I know Rihanna had a thing one time when she said everyone needs to just shut the F up. Like seriously, like just everyone needs to just shut the F up. I'm riding with Lana. I think some of her posts, she was like, "I won't not F you the F up." Like it was hilarious. Like Lana seems like a boss. I don't think I would ever want to really mess with her like that, but I'm team Lana on this one.
Yeah, I mean, she totally called Banks out and was like, "You could have been the best female rapper alive, but you blew it. Don't take it out on the only person that had your back." And they used to be friends, which was crazy. But I'm gonna go with Lana. I'm gonna go with Lana as well. I honestly think that she would come for her if the chance were given. And Azealia Banks has been in the middle of drama before with tons of people always running her mouth, including Cardi B. Came at Cardi B, called her a poor man's Nicki Minaj, and Cardi B's clapback was sending her the video of Banks dancing to Bodak Yellow. So obviously she gets mad over like little things. I just think like stay that out of it. So you follow Kanye on Instagram, like so you had to make a comment, just leave it alone.
Absolutely. So make music, stay out of beef, and that's that. Yeah. Clown of the week time. That was fun. That was a good quick hits. Even though next time we can't agree, and we agreed on a lot this week, but it's okay. Sometimes it's just gonna happen.
I guess so.
It's all good. So, Clown of the Week. So, for all of our new listeners of Alternative Fact Chicago, Clown of the Week is pretty self-explanatory. We pick one person, place, thing, situation that we think is the Clown of the Week, and we explain why. So, you should go first this time.
Oh, should I?
Yes.
All right, my Clown of the Week is Kanye's wife, Kim Kardashian
Oh, no.
West. I don't know if you saw this, but she posted a photo of her daughter, Chicago West, cuddling with her cousin, Kylie Jenner's daughter, Stormy Webster. And the photo dates back to early September when Kylie posted on her Instagram. People were commenting that the photos weren't quite the same, and somebody put them together and made like a little flip book where you go back and forth. And Kim freaking photoshopped Chicago West's face. It is absolutely obvious. Not only is there a filter change, but she's like smoothed out a section of Chicago's forehead and curly hair. I don't know what the purpose was. Some people are just like going after her on Instagram, saying that, you know, at this young of an age, she's already like promoting dysmorphia for her children. And I saw one comment that was like, your child's now gonna look like Kylie and like fill her lips in because you photoshopped her at a young age. I want to say that it was Kim's failure, like crappy team, social media team, because you know she doesn't post for herself. People help her. So I want to say it was just a crappy move on the team to not think that people are going to notice it. But there are literally Instagrams and Twitters going through celebrity photos to find Photoshops. And the freaking Kardashians are offenders all the time. So just don't do it.
Crazy. That's crazy. I didn't hear about that story.
Yeah, she's my clown of the week. Photoshopping pictures of babies. Who are you?
Crazy. Mine. So I've had a tough time with this one. I was like, should I give Clown of the Week? And this is a hot story that hot off the press, and once this is out, everyone's going to know about anyway. But Jimmy Butler, former Chicago Bull, is a Minnesota Timberwolves right now. He finally actually showed up to training camp, or his preseason right now for the NBA season starting soon. He actually was with the team today during a scrimmage and was just talking all types of crap to the team. And he actually played a scrimmage with the third stringers against the starters. From what the rumors are saying, he destroyed them, was talking all types of crap to the team while it was happening, to the other starters while it was happening, and then even to the GM, the coaches, saying like, you guys are losers without me, you guys wouldn't be SHIT without me, this and that and the other. So had a tough time with this. And first I was going to give Clown of the Week to Jimmy Butler for this, for what he was saying. But I think I'm going to switch. I think I'm going to give my Clown of the Week to everyone that was a part of it in regards to the Timberwolves franchise and to the Timberwolves players, that they actually didn't stop him and do nothing about it. Because there's an interview that just came out on SportsCenter right now that Jimmy Butler was actually saying, if someone would have pulled me aside and actually say, hey, you know, you're going about this the wrong way. Hey, you need to chill out. You know, yeah, we get it, but calm down. Then he actually would have stopped and said, okay, I agree with you. During the whole time that it happened, he said no one said anything, which actually helped him keep going and actually do it. So my Clown of the Week goes to the entire Timberwolves franchise and the other players for not stopping him, not actually doing something about it, not actually stepping up and checking him back. He basically just punked the entire franchise. He did it on purpose because ESPN was there. It's a great story. Everyone's talking about it, and it's going to be better trade bait for him. And that's why the Timberwolves franchise is a losing franchise, because they did nothing about it. They stood back, and that's why Jimmy Butler needs to get out of there, because they have the losing mentality that no one stepped up to him. So sorry, Minnesota franchise, you get the Clown of the Week for this one.
Yeah, definitely not Jimmy Butler for walking around talking smack to his teammates. He'll definitely blame the team.
Well, I mean, you got to stop him. Basically, he was like, someone stop up, man up, and stop me to doing it. And he's like,
how dare you tell people to be accountable for their
no one said anything to him.
Yelled at for being a punk. You're right.
So you would have given Jimmy the Clown of the Week?
Yes. What do you mean? Yes.
I think he was just making a statement like, you guys suck without me. I think obviously because he could have handled it the wrong way, and he said, I think it was a lot of pent up frustration. He did say that he hasn't played basketball in a while, so it kind of just carried over. So I totally get it.
He had showed up to training camp and played.
He doesn't want to be there, so a lot of drama. But I'm giving it to the Timberwolves franchise and the other players as a whole. So if you want to give it to Jimmy Butler himself, you go for it.
No, mine goes to Kanye.
Absolutely. So this has been an awesome episode. One of the best that you and I have had. Probably the best we've had as a duo so far. Very funny, powerful, impactful. We talked about a lot here, so I really appreciate you for the support. To Johndalyn Armstrong from Women's March Chicago. She nailed it. I thought it was a fun episode. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure.
There we go.
It's a fun episode. We get better every single week. Shout out to all the great feedback we get on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and everywhere. Everybody that's been listening and all the new fans that have come in. We super appreciate y'all, and let us know what you think, because obviously we're open.
Absolutely. So we'll be out, like I say, Women's March. So the polls will be out somewhere this Saturday. It's going to be a lot of people, but if you see Alternative Fact Chicago, make sure you say hello. You can always catch us on 247liveculture.com on their platform as well, too. Like I said, we really appreciate you. The growth has been amazing. Going to keep going for you guys as well and keep improving day to day. But it's Wednesday. It's raining. It's cold. Got to get out of here. Anything else you want to say to everyone before we get out for episode 62?
No, That's it.
Absolutely. So this is B.Hun with Cait, Alternative Facts Chicago. We'll be back next week with the new founders of Backus Entertainment, Justin and Devin, and more great content to come. We love you all. Thanks for making us the #1 podcast in the city, and we are out.
Bye.
Peace.